Six Nations Team of the Week for round number 4. We're going to go through 15 players from each of the various teams in the Six Nations 4th round. And yeah, highlight some star performers, go through some honourable mentions, and as always, you guys can let me know your thoughts on who you would have if you were picking a team, because this one, far from being perfect, is just my own selection. We're starting with a prop, and we're starting with an Englishman in ELLIS GENGE. I don't really know what was going on with that scrummaging, because that's all beyond my pay grade, but goodness gracious me, I've never seen Tadhg Furlong have as tough a time as he had against old ELLIS GENGE at the weekend. Genji was massive. I mean, stats-wise, 4 runs, 7 metres, that's nothing to really write home about. That's kind of stock standard stuff for a prop. 1 pass, 12 from 13 tackles is a good shift. He does have 2 penalties conceded as a black mark of his own, but goodness gracious me, man. Scrum time was profitable for England at the weekend, so Genji, the baby rhino, really, really good shift from him. I've had a look online, and there's all kinds of opinions as to what was going on, but either way, we saw the result, and yeah, give Genji some credit for that one. The other prop I'm going to go with, tight head, is old, one of my personal favourites to be fair, ZANDER FAGERSON. Solid shift from ZANDER as well. 5 runs for 15 metres is a slightly better return in terms of, you know, carrying rate for a prop. That's actually pretty solid. He has 9 from 9 tackles, which is also, you know, very commendable. He does have a penalty conceded and a turnover conceded, but overall, I mean, why are you picking your props? Mostly it's scrummaging and getting their heads into dirty places and whatnot. So, yeah, I thought he was pretty good at the weekend as well. He played 50-odd minutes. So, yeah, Genji and FAGERSON for mine in the props. Hooker, I have gone, it was a tough choice, but I ended up going with a Frenchman. And with Marchand, it was kind of a tough one in that game, because that game didn't really, the tight nature of that Wales and France game didn't really lend itself to guys blasting run meters or defenders beating, like the kind of cool stats that you look at, the sexy stats, right? It was an arm wrestle game, so it's kind of harder when it's more of a team effort in that game like it was at the weekend. But Marchand individually, 7 runs for 14 meters is again okay without being spectacular. It's a decent number of carries. He wanted the ball. He has a pass. He has a defender beaten, 3 from 3 tackles. He wins a turnover. The lineout's at 92%, so there was 1 loss. That doesn't really represent how much pressure the line-out ball was under. It wasn't the cleanest of ball, but that was more of the aerial battle than his throwing. So, yeah, the throws were pretty much on the money. Otherwise, they would have been in even worse condition than they were in the air. But, yeah, Marchand, I think he got man of the match as well. Pretty good shift from him. I don't always pick the man of the match because sometimes those things seem pretty left field to mine. But anyway, Marchand, pretty good shift from the Frenchman. Locks, I have gone with an Irishman, another kind of personal favourite in Tadhg BEIRNE. You guys know I like Big Tadhg. 8 runs, 8 metres. That's a pretty easy ratio to work out in terms of the number of metres per carry, which he would like, I'm sure, to be better, but it's good to see him getting his hands on the ball. Interestingly, he has 11 passes. That's more than some midfielders and whatnot in this week, so he can be one of those key link-up men. Like Ireland love, you know, getting the ball around the corner, and you know, he's a good guy with ball in hand. He's a pretty safe pair of hands, so he's a good man to have there. Like literally 11 passes is more than most locks would handle. Yeah, he has an offload in there, 7 from 7 tackles. He also wins 2 turnovers. One's a line-out steal, and one is a regular old turnover. So yeah, Tadhg BEIRNE. Just continues to be Mr. Consistent for Ireland, doesn't he? Other lock, and I've picked him a few weeks in a row now. I think he probably stops England from conceding more points, to be fair. MARO ITOJE. A lot of people don't like him. People talk about him the same way they used to talk about Richie McCaw, like he's a cheat. But I guess that's just the thing with rugby, is that you get away with what you can get away with, right? Some people don't like it, but I'm pretty sure everybody does it. Just some are better at it than others. 7 runs for 11 metres is okay without being phenomenal. Only the 1 pass. I contrast that to Tadhg BEIRNE's 11 passes. Just you know, to put that bit of context in there into how much TADHG BEIRNE is good with his hands. But one pass, 13 from 16 tackles. Remember, the English guys were having to scramble at times with the man down. He wins 7 lineouts, so absolutely imperious in the air. He wins a turnover. He does have a turnover conceded, and he does have 2 penalties conceded. So, I mean, the penalties conceded, like I mentioned, those are the ones where you're slowing the ball down every now and again, you get busted. So, yeah, MARO for mine. So that's your type 5. A couple of honourable mentions, I guess you could say. Gareth Thomas for Wales in the propping stocks. You know, elevated to a starting role. Still managed to get through like 11 tackles, I think it was. So he had a pretty good shift. I don't think he conceded any penalties. Will Rowlands was just absolutely terrorising the French guys in the air. So he had a heck of a shift as well. So, yes, more than just these guys that I've got, but these are the ones that I've gone with. Loose forwards, I have gone with another Englishman in old Courtney Laws. And it's basically, I mean, there's nothing flash ball in hand here. It's just Courtney Laws just gets through a lot of work in a team which needed guys to get through the work. I mean, 3 runs, 7 metres is actually not a bad return for a second rower come back rower. I mean, I know he went into the second row once Yules went off, but he was kind of chopping and changing. 2 passes, 16 from 17 tackles. He's the top tackler of that game. So just had to get through a mountain of work as the captain. Had to manage the ref. So yeah, Courtney Laws without him there. And ITOJE, I do think England conceded either more points or more points sooner than they did. They were in that game for quite some time. 3 line-out wins as well for him. Another Frenchman in Anthony JELONCH. He got the only try of the game, and like all 3 of their loosies had good aspects to their game. I think Audrey might have been a touch injured towards the end, but anyway, JELONCH gets a try, 8 runs, 16 metres, is also a decent return. It could be higher, but it's not bad. 4 passes, so he got his hands on the ball a wee bit, not as much as TADHG BEIRNE. And offload, 12 from 12 tackles is pretty massive. He also has a line-out win as well, so he really does do a bit of everything. He's a proper jack of all trades. He does have 2 penalties conceded if you're looking for something negative. And finally, I've gone with TAULUPE FALETAU for number 8. He's looked pretty good the last 2 games for Wales, hasn't he? Pretty good is kind of an understatement. 14 carries is huge on its own, but then he gets 65 run meters. I should say, as always, I always forget to say at the start, I'm using Opta's stats rather than the Six Nations one, so they're a little bit stingier on the amount of run meters they award. I think the Six Nations had him at like 100 plus. 1 defender beaten, 5 passes and 2 offloads, 8 from 9 tackles. The only thing is, like the black mark, a turnover conceded and 2 penalties conceded. Like one of the penalties he gave away was a pretty dumb one, like when Wales were hot on attack and just giving away that. It was a neck roll, I think. Absolutely let France off the hook. So, yes, apart from that, I think FALETAU was likewise pretty tidy. Other guys, I'm gutted I don't have Halafihi here, the Italian number 8. He put in a cracking shift as well. Churned through even more run meters than FALETAU did, to be fair. Matt FAGERSON defensively was really solid. Jack Noel packing down at flanker at times. Deserves a shout. Kalen Doris as well. But there you go. That's your forward pack. Halfback, finally you get someone other than Antoine Dupont. I've gone with Ali Price from Scotland. Pretty tidy shift. I think he got man of the match as well. 1 try assist. He has 6 runs for 95 meters, which is more than he usually gets, and is a very good return. 3 clean breaks, 7 defenders beaten. The guy was just finding space for fun. I know sometimes the Italian defense can be a little bit lackluster, but I mean, you can't just give this guy any room to move, because he took it. 7 defenders beaten, 67 passes, 6 from 6 tackles. He does have a turnover conceded, but yeah, he was absolutely lighting it up. It was really pleasing to see. And number 10, I have gone with old Dan the Man. I've gone with Dan BIGGAR. Again, like I said, that game wasn't one that really lends itself to heaps of stats in terms of like all the run meters and whatnot. He still has 3 runs for 22 meters, which is good. He gets 3 penalties for 9 points, which is all that Wales are able to score in that game. 37 passes. But, I mean, 7 from 7 tackles. It's basically his management of that game that keep, you know, Wales putting France under pressure in that game, eh? Like, that kicking game was phenomenal. One of his 50-22s was just bonkers for the distance, so he absolutely took the game by the scruff of the neck and got his team pretty close to winning it if they'd converted a couple of opportunities, but couldn't quite get it done. He does have 2 turnovers conceded, but yeah, Dan Biggar, I thought, managed the game pretty well for another week. Other guys, I mean, you could have Dupont. He beat some defenders and whatnot in his game. For France, you could have Finn Russell. Looked back to his more talented self than he did a couple of weeks ago. So, yep, other guys you could choose. But Price and Biggar for mine. Midfield was kind of a tough one, especially 12. I've kind of just defaulted through to Sam Johnson, who didn't do a heck of a lot wrong. He didn't get a lot of time ball in hand. Like 5 runs, 26 metres is okay without being fantastic. He'd like to have more ball in hand than that, I would imagine. 4 passes. Remember, BEIRNE had 11. 12 from 13 tackles is admirable, and he scores his try pretty well. Doesn't do a lot wrong. Would have probably liked to be a bit more involved. But I can't say that anyone else absolutely tore it up at 12 this week. So he kind of just sneaks in by just getting a kind of steady, you know, B+ kind of result. I don't know, which is not usually what you go for Team of the Week. I mean, Dante had some big moments as well, but also dropped the ball a lot, I seem to remember. So, yeah, there you go. Johnson, and I've gone with his midfield partner, Chris Harris. So it's an all-Scottish midfield this time. He gets 2 tries. Sometimes he gets criticised for not scoring enough tries, but he gets 2, 10 runs, so he gets his hands on the ball a wee bit more than Johnson. 10 runs, 25 metres, 6 passes, beats 4 defenders, 12 from 14 tackles. So, yeah, pretty solid shift. He does concede a penalty, but, yeah, Chris Harris. I mean, Joe Marchand was pretty bloody good as well, wasn't he, for England defensively. But, yeah, 2 tries. Got to go with Chris Harris. Outside backs, I got to go with James Lowe. Like, if you wanted the offensive stats, which I mentioned were absent, at least in the France and Wales game, James Lowe gets a try, 13 runs, and 177 run meters. That's literally more than some teams get in a kind of tightly, like a wet game, where they're not getting much ball. Like, some teams would struggle to get 177 run meters. Usually they get more than that, but for one guy to have that many run meters is absolutely insane. So, yeah, top stuff. Not the most I've seen, but that's pretty bloody high. 3 clean breaks, 5 defenders beaten, 4 passes and an offload. I mean, 1 from 2 tackles ain't nothing to get too excited about. 5 kicks, he's got that big old boot. He does concede 2 penalties. He does have a turnover conceded, but by no means perfect. But still, man, 177 run meters. That's cracking. So, well done to James Lowe. It's a competitive back 3 in Ireland at the moment. Another guy who I've gone with, and I think everybody's got to give this guy a crack, the young Italian debutant ANGE CAPUOZZO. First game for the Italians, and he gets 2 tries. Not a bad way to introduce yourself. He comes off the bench. I think he slots in at both right wing and full back, so you could kind of chuck him in wherever you want. But 11 runs, 57 metres, has a clean break, beats 5 defenders, 12 passes and an offload. Not a bad way to introduce yourself. I think 5 from 8 tackles. I think he misses one. Does he miss one on Graham? For Darcy Graham's try? Yeah, he definitely gets skinned at least once, but come on, man. Not a bad way. Like, the fact that the Italian under-20s are doing well, and there's like a lot of young guys in that Italian squad, like Garbisi, you know, MARO, CAPUOZZO, other guys as well. I mean, Lucchese's not exactly long in the tooth, the hooker when he's fit. There's certainly reason to be optimistic about the Italians, and there's another reason for it. But yeah, CAPUOZZO for mine. And lastly, another Irishman I've gone with, HUGO Keenan at the back. Goodness me, he had a test, didn't he? So many high balls that he'd have to field. And sometimes he'd field it and then just get absolutely smashed. I feel like his teammates maybe needed to support him a little bit better, because he can only catch the ball and then he's fair game. And the English were monstering him at times, dragging him into touch or ripping the ball off him. But he was certainly still catching the high balls, which is what his core role is. And he does it so well. I mean, he gets a try, 18 runs for 88 metres. Like, if not for James Lowe's numbers, then he's easily the highest, apart from maybe FALETAU, who's at 65. 88 run metres, 4 defenders beaten, 8 passes, 2 offloads, like 2 from 3 tackles. He does have 2 turnovers conceded and a penalty conceded, so it's not perfect. But, yeah, man, like Mr. Reliable at the back, eh? He is just quite the bomb diffuser. So, there you go. Other outside backs, I mean, Villiers for France was also a real handful. Darcy Graham, like I mentioned, Stuart Hogg. There's other guys you could certainly go for as well, but I've gone for these guys as I have mentioned. So yeah, Six Nations round 4. That's the team of the week for mine. Probably a bit Scottish dominated this week, but sometimes that's just the way it goes. We've got 1 round left. Some interesting games to come. You guys let me know your thoughts on who you would have if you were picking a team, who's overrated, who's underrated. And if you want British and Irish Lions gear, I'll put a link in the description because they are still having sales on their gear. You might as well get your hands on some because discounted rugby gear is certainly the best way to go. Cheers guys, take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.